and I came across a video actually. It was a news video of some coverage of a vendor day, and Rob Davies, who is here with us today, was featured in that video, and he referred to the technology and the process. He was describing it like a lightsaber, and I was hooked. Done. That's all I needed to hear. I'm a Star Wars fan. I clicked off all my Google windows. I deleted the message as fast as I possibly could and sent back, yes, I would definitely be interested in this role. And then I ran to tell my husband, I'm going to work at a lightsaber factory. This is going to be great.
Welcome to the third and final episode of Critical Material Production with Plasma, podcast and video miniseries from MANSUS and 6K. I'm your host, Jim Woodcock, and this miniseries has allowed us to give a deep dive into the fundamentals of plasma, how plasma is harnessed in 6K's Unimelt platform, and then how that platform can be used in materials development and production across additive manufacturing and the energy sectors. Last episode we heard how partnerships are foundational to the way that 6K works and how the Unimelt platform can be used as a complementary technology alongside other powder production processes. If you haven't yet made time for episodes 1 and 2, I suggest that's where you start, especially the first episode, because that gives a good overview of plasma, the Unimelt platform, how that all ties together, and that will help you understand more about the PlusCAM factory, which is what we're going to be talking about today, which is where that Unimelt technology will be housed. To round out the mini-series, I spoke to Rob Davies, the COO of 6K Energy, and Amy Carter, who is Enterprise HR and Talent Director for 6K Inc. They're talking about 6K's PlusCAM factory down in Jackson, Tennessee, both from a technical standpoint, how that's set up, how they went about building it, what it will produce, but also from a staffing and community relations standpoint, and how important that is to the overall success of the site. I started by asking Rob to tell us a little more about 6K Energy, that side of their business, and how the PlusCAM factory fits in to their ongoing mission.
Well, thank you, Jim. 6K Energy is a subsidiary of 6K Incorporated, and as you mentioned, it's one of 3 segments that we have active in the company today. And 6K Energy's focus is on producing cathode active material, CAM for short, and this will be a core constituent for batteries going forward, primarily for the electric vehicle market, but also for domestic battery producers. Our production process uses significantly less electricity than conventional co-precipitation and only uses about 10% of the water by comparison. And interestingly, we don't have any hazardous waste as a byproduct. So my role here at 6K Energy is to build out the manufacturing network. And we've recently embarked upon our first facility in Jackson, Tennessee. And since we announced our plans to build a plant in Jackson, we've had a really strong response from the local community, and our enthusiasm for the project is really strong at the moment.
Yeah, so I'm from Jackson, and I now know that there's 32 Jacksons in the United States, but I got to tell you, our Jackson, we typically don't think of it as being a place that stands out or that someone makes a point to come to, or you really hear about all that often. So how did you end up in the Jackson area, or how did 6K end up here?
So we actually started with over 120 sites in our site selection process, and using a rubric, we boiled that down to 60, then to 12, and then to 3. And we negotiated pretty hard with 3 individual states. There is a strong belt of activity across the southern US states, with people focusing on battery material production, and electric vehicle production. And we see a lot of other companies in the area, people like Ford and SK and LG. But we chose Jackson primarily because of the people that we met there. We negotiated really hard and got a really strong incentive offering from 3 states. And so financially, they were on a par. But when we met the people in Jackson, it was clear that they had a really strong interest in our success. They really went out of their way to make sure we understood the landscape They made sure that we met all the key decision makers before we actually committed to Jackson. And it was the people that really compelled us to select Jackson as the location for our facility. And Amy is a great example of that. And so, how did you hear about 6K, Amy?
Yeah, so that's a really interesting story, actually. As I mentioned earlier, I'm native to Jackson. I was born and raised here, and I've spent the better part of the last 15 years building a career in HR, primarily in industrial manufacturing settings. But in the spring of 2023, I had just had a baby and was taking somewhat of a career pause just to kind of refocus. I wanted to spend some time really focused on being a parent and think about what the next steps in my career would be. So I just had a 6 to 8 week old baby. I can't remember exactly how old, but I definitely was not out there actively looking. But I was tuned in, as we all do through social media and LinkedIn. And so I've received a message on LinkedIn from a recruiter letting me know about a senior HR business partner position in the area and that there was a great new organization coming to Jackson and they felt like my skill set was a good match for the role. So I've been a recruiter before, and there's nothing worse than when you send out all these messages and you never hear anything back. So I always try and be polite and at least send a message and acknowledge. So, I had this lovely polite message crafted about how flattered I was, but I'm not really looking right now. Check in with me for a few months. And right before I hit send, I thought, I think I've been hearing about this company. I'm just going to check it out real quick. So I started going on a Google deep dive, researching 6K Energy, and I came across a video actually. It was a news video of some coverage of a vendor day, and Rob Davies, who is here with us today, was featured in that video, and he referred to the technology in the process. He was describing it like a lightsaber. And I was hooked. Done. That's all I needed to hear. I'm a Star Wars fan. I clicked off all my Google windows. I mean, I deleted the message as fast as I possibly could and sent back, yes, I would definitely be interested in this role. And then I ran to tell my husband, I'm going to work at a lightsaber factory. This is going to be great. And started describing to him. I was like, it's actually called 6K. And he said, oh, I was just reading an article about this company the other day. They're receiving funding from the infrastructure bill. This is really exciting for Jackson. So I think that represents what you see all throughout the community, not just in our household, is there's so much excitement for 6K to be coming to town and investing. And fortunately, this worked out. And I ended up with the gig, which is great, which is why I'm here today. But yeah, I got to tell you, the minute I heard it described as the torch looking like a lightsaber, I was hooked. And there was a lot of work that went in uh by Rob and the team before I even joined to establish a brand in Jackson. And so the news coverage that day actually was for an event that they held before I joined the company that was a great success. And I think, again, just reflects how excited the community is and how much interest there is in 6K. So, Rob, do you want to tell them about Vendor Day?
So, we were getting a lot of email and phone inquiries from a whole host of vendors, and we felt we needed to make our presence felt in a bit more of an organized way. And so we came up with the concept of setting up for a vendor day. And so we hired a local hotel room and invited everybody that had expressed an interest. And we had over 100 different vendors turn up. And we organized them into groups that were in similar themes, like construction contractors or utility contractors. And we ended up with a hugely successful day. Um, we ended up building a great catalog of contacts, and we've begun to make relationships with those contractors already. We broke ground recently, and we've been able to leverage the relationships that we built during Vendor Day to actually engage some local contractors to help us with the construction project. Separately, we also went through quite a rigorous selection process for our general contractor. We got lots of expressions of interest, but we chose a partner out of Atlanta called Evans General Contractors, and they specialize in design build projects, which is what our project is set up to be. And we did a similar selection process for our architect and process design company. And we ended up selecting a company called Ghaffari from Dearborn, Michigan. And so both of them have proven to be valuable partners here as we kicked off our project. And so now that we've got the vendors in place, we need to turn our attention to our recruiting efforts. And I know, Amy, you've got a lot of work in front of you in terms of recruiting. So why don't you share what you've got planned here?
So we are currently in the pre-hiring or workforce building phase right now, which means that the majority of my time is spent identifying talent sources or pipelines within the workforce in the community. And a key component of this is the commitments that we made in our equity plan, which is part of the DOE grant that we received that supports Justice 40. And so, just at the highest level, Justice 40 is an initiative that requires 40% of the overall benefits from certain federal investments to flow to communities that have historically been disadvantaged, marginalized, and underserved. So, from a hiring or a job creation standpoint, this means that 40% of our initial workforce will be from these communities. And I think a key challenge that comes when you're engaging with communities that have not typically had access to higher education opportunities or future of work skills training is that there's this misconception that you have to be a highly educated, certified, licensed engineer in order to do this work. So, what we really want to do is drop the veil, so to speak, so that we can help the workforce that we're trying to develop understand that these jobs aren't just desirable, that they're certainly also obtainable. And then you pair that with the fact that anytime you have a shift in skill sets within a workforce, you have to take a different approach to how you recruit and what you recruit for. So, specifically in the Jackson and West Tennessee area, we're moving skill sets within the workforce from what is traditional discrete assembly manufacturing of consumer products to these highly automated, tech oriented, future of work, advanced manufacturing jobs. So, these are two challenges that we're facing when we're out here trying to develop the workforce and bring individuals into 6K. I think one of the things that is so exciting is that this is an opportunity for people to be a part of a process that's not done anywhere else in the world. And it's even cooler that that's being done right here in Jackson, Tennessee. So, with that, the what that we recruit for is really going to shift from hard skill sets to more of a mindset as equal to the skill sets. And that mindset that we're looking for is solutions focused, or what we typically refer to as a continuous improvement mindset. So I think it's really cool and exciting for everyone that's going to be joining our team at 6K. I like to refer to the team members that we're going to have as industrial pioneers, right? This is the future. We're paving the way into advanced manufacturing and what the future of work looks like. So, Rob, now that I've described a little bit about what our workforce is going to look like, our team of industrial pioneers, why don't you talk about where they're going to be working in the plant that we're building?
So we call the plant the PlusCAM plant. And PlusCAM stands for Plasma Low Cost Ultra Sustainable Cathode Active Material. A bit of a mouthful, which is why we choose to call it the PlusCAM facility. So this is going to be a $270 million project. We're going to build 5 production lines, 2 of them at pilot scale and 3 of them at full scale. And we're going to build the facility in 2 phases. We'll build the pilot scale initially and then quickly follow through with the construction of the full scale production lines. It'll be a multi-chemistry site. We're going to produce both metal oxide families of products as well as a lithium iron phosphate family of products. And it's rare for a battery materials plant such as ours to produce multiple chemistries. But we've chosen to do so, and we're going to great lengths to make sure that we keep the 2 products very separate. Now, our technology, as Amy mentioned, is a first to the world plasma technology. If you've heard of plasma, you'll know that it's the 4th state of matter. So if you think of a solid and you warm a solid up, you get to a liquid. If you warm up a liquid, you produce a gas. But if you then warm a gas up, you produce a plasma. So our plasma is very controllable, and we can control both the diameter and the length of our plasma. Hence the lightsaber analogy. When you see it in real life, it does look like a column of about 4 feet long and about 4 inches in diameter, just like a lightsaber. So our production process is quite conventional in front of the plasma and after the plasma. So we'll have raw material preparation as we produce all of the feedstock to go into the plasma reactor. And we call the reactor the unimelt, by the way. So after the preparation, we feed the unimelt, and the powder that comes out of the unimelt is already close to being a cathode active material. We further oxidize in some kilns, we do some size reduction, we do some coating, and then we sieve it and we package it ready for shipping to customers. Now, because this is a new to the world plant, we do anticipate quite a few challenges establishing our production platform. And so, as Amy mentioned, we really are focused on hiring capable employees and making sure that we train them with the skills that are appropriate to run our technology. And we're hiring about 230 people, and it's generating a lot of interest locally. And so we now are going to embark on a series of community-related activities over the next 12 months so that we can build our profile. And so Amy is responsible for that. So why don't you share some of those community activities, Amy?
Yeah, sure. I spoke a little bit earlier about kind of dropping that veil, so to speak, out in the community, or, engaging people in STEM related or science activities. When we talk about things like this fourth state of matter and plasma and it being a multi-chemistry plant, I got to tell you, even for me, it was a bit intimidating coming in to the organization when I didn't have a science background, so to speak. I was more of a thinker. I was a philosophy major, so it was quite a bit of a shift for me to come in and learn this. But it's certainly, like I said earlier about the obtainable piece, it's certainly something that once you're in it, it's obtainable and you understand it. So I think when we're out in the community, part of that is getting a level of comfort with STEM related activities, and that goes all the way down to the youth. I think there's opportunities within our parks as well. So one of the initial partnerships that we've made is with the Parks and Rec Department, which offers public programs for the youth in the community. It's a really great group with the City of Jackson Parks and Rec Department. We quickly bonded, I think, because a lot of us are local to Jackson, but we also had this shared interest of wanting to enhance what we offer the youth in our communities. So, in our initial discussions, we were talking through, hey, what are some of the quick opportunities that we have here to make an impact? And the TR White Sportsplex is actually a facility that houses an after school and a summer program. And they have a beautiful state of the art computer lab, all of the latest equipment, comfortable chairs. If you've ever sat in front of a computer for a long period of time, you know how important that is. So it's an awesome space. So we started talking through what can we do to enhance it, to make it used even more in these after school programs or bring the community in. And we thought, hey, how about a 3D printer? This isn't something that we offer anywhere else. It's also something that we felt like we could create activities in these after school and the summer program for. So quickly went in. That was a quick, easy win, right? We went, ordered the 3D printer and had it shipped. It arrived and we were all excited and looked around, and the Parks Department didn't have anyone that was an expert with 3D printing. I certainly was not an expert with 3D printing. So fortunately, we had a strong network where we were able to reach out and bring people in the community, subject matter experts. We partnered with Jackson State, actually, which is a local community college that has a computer science program. And they were able to come in and help us develop activities and a guide, so to speak, to use the 3D printer. So from there, we continued the conversations and said, all right, so we've got this one challenge behind us, right? We've got the 3D printer. We figured out how to maintain it and use it. What else can we do? And one thing that the president of the City of Jackson Parks Department said is, hey, my grandchildren are coming to stay with me this summer. And my grandson keeps asking me over and over again, is there going to be a STEM activity? Are we going to have STEM in the summer camp this year? And he said, I would really like, he's a gamer, I would really like for us to have something. So we called on, again, everyone in our network, our academic partners. We got some other employers, the Jackson Madison County school system, sat down and started brainstorming. And we have now outlined what is going to be a STEM day each week of the 8-week summer program. So we'll offer a STEM activity each week. And then in addition to that, at the end of the summer, for everyone that chooses to participate, they can do group projects or their own submission. We're going to have a science fair type event where they submit a project specifically on renewable energy, and it can be related to biology, chemistry, or any of the STEM fields. And then we're going to have a winner of that science fair. So we haven't quite worked out all the details of what the prize is going to be. We're trying to find something cool and neat and tech related, but we're just really excited to be able to offer that this year. I think there's a personal win for Mr. Tony, who is the Parks and Rec president. He's very excited to have something there for his grandson to participate in this year. So really looking forward to that and continuing those partnerships. And, you know, I mentioned Jackson State as one of our key partners. There's also Lane College, which is a historically Black college located here in Jackson. And there's also TCAP, which is another VOTEC training facility that we have. And a lot of those relationships that we have with them today were built from the work, as I was mentioning earlier, that Rob and his team were doing long before I joined the team. So Rob, if you want to tell us a little bit about how we established those academic partnerships and what some of the bright spots have already been.
So when we arrived in Jackson, we began to think about where are we going to build the pipeline for our employee base. And we got introduced to the local colleges, and we decided to group them in some categories. So we decided to focus TCAT, Tennessee College of Applied Technology, as the source of training for our operator program. We decided to focus on Jackson State as a source of training and curriculum for our maintenance program. And then we focused on Lane College and their STEM program as the basis to hire quality technicians. And so as we've been building the relationship with those 3 local colleges, we've actually committed to putting some scholarships in place. And so the first scholarship has already been awarded. The scholarship's called 6K from 6K. And we made the award to a young lady called Amasha Maybom. She's a chemistry major at Lane College. And we're looking forward to having her join us as an intern in a summer program. And hopefully, if she's interested in 6K, she'll continue and become one of our first employees. And so we've done some good work here building relationships with local colleges. And I know that Amy is now turning her focus to the high school programs. So why don't you share some of the high school programs and youth programs that you've got planned for the summer?
Yeah, sure. So there's a couple of things that have evolved out of the Parks and Recreation Department conversations, but also our partnership with the Jackson Madison County African American Chamber of Commerce. So Don McCory is a close partner of ours in the community, and they offer a summer program for youth age 12 to 18. The applicants apply to be a part of the program. They offer an entrepreneurship training as well as skill training to get jobs in the community. They even have some paid internship opportunities, but the program itself doesn't offer that for everyone. But last year, they started adding STEM curriculum or STEM offerings, so to speak, into this program. And that's something they intend on doing again this year. So we're really excited to be able to partner with them, and just from a resourcing standpoint, being able to be there. We're going to be engaging Amasha, our Lane scholar, as part of that work as well. So we're excited to be a part of that too, and that's going to serve that high school youth group. And then as we start to look down at all ages, we had some really exciting events that we've already partnered with the Jackson Madison County school system on. One of the bright spots that we had was in January. We hosted with the school system at Arlington Elementary School the VEX IQ Robotics Tournament. This was a huge event. It brought in teams from all over Middle and West Tennessee. These were elementary, some a little up into middle school, but primarily elementary students that came in and competed in a series of events for their robotics competition. So it was really great to see them come out on a Saturday. These were kids that had been working for months building these robots and making sure that they were able to function. They had to pass a really high standard to even get into the competition. There were 2 teams that were actually turned away, which was really hard to watch because I wanted every team to be able to participate, but there was actually teams that were turned away. I even said, as a sponsor, can they still enter? And that's not how it works. So unfortunately, they weren't able to compete that day because there's such a high standard that they have to meet with their robots. So that was really exciting. We're going to continue to partner with the school system to be sure that, again, kind of like I was talking about earlier, making sure that we are getting into the communities and raising awareness or enhancing STEM programs in the schools, but also just in the community in general. So I think everything that we're doing from a standpoint of engaging the community and PlusCAM in general is such an exciting endeavor for us. There's so many reasons for us to be proud of what we're doing within the community, but also even more so proud of what we're doing from a process innovation standpoint as well.
Well, I think just listening to that, I've never heard, and it's so obvious now, but I've never heard the plasma plume be described as a lightsaber before. But now I see it; it's obvious, right? So I think for the
Right?
you need some little gifts or awards for your STEM
Yes.
class. Then it's got to be something lightsaber based, right?
Lightsabers.
It worked on you when Rob pitched it. Yeah,
Absolutely. If I'd
It's gonna
come to
work
the
on the
interview
kids.
and he had a lightsaber,
boom.
it would have been done. But yeah, like that's such a great idea. Like let them have, like I'm over here already fighting elementary kids with my lightsaber, but
Exactly. There you go.
that would be awesome.
That'll get them into it. What are the kids, do you think, hoping to get out of this when they come to like a STEM day or approach a program like that? Do you think they have focus and they think, I want to do X, Y, and Z, or are they just kind of a blank canvas at that point?
I think it's both. I will share that the robotics tournament that I told you about, I actually had someone reach out to me that I hadn't spoken to in like 20 years. It was somebody from college. And she said, "Hey, I think I saw you at this robotics tournament." I said, "Well, you did." And she said, "My son, this is what he's into. This is his thing." And it's not often that you get corporate sponsorships in schools that host competitions like this. And so they had actually traveled a little over an hour to come to this competition. And she was appreciative of the fact of, hey, it's so cool to have this. So I think that there are the youth in the community that this is their thing. This is what they want to do. Like I mentioned, asking Mr. Tony's grandson wanting to know, hey, is there going to be anything STEM related in the summer program, is a reflection that there's truly an interest in the youth. It's about enhancing those programs and making them accessible across the board. And then, of course, I also do think there is kind of the blank canvas. I described earlier, I wasn't necessarily someone that came from a scientific background, but, I think early on, we had programs and offerings like this where I'd been exposed to it more directly, that I probably would have been open and really been into it, because that's how, as an adult, that's exactly how I am today. Like I said, once you're in it, it's like, oh, okay. But yeah, I think it's a little mix of both. I think you have some people coming in very pointedly wanting this, and then you also just have the blank canvas of, hey, let me go see what this is about.
Mm-hmm. And I think for that, the little 3D printer is such a great tool. I think it's easy when you're in the additive manufacturing space, as I was, and obviously is part of what 6K does. You kind of get very used to it, and we're talking about making refractory materials to put things on the moon. But just the little cheap nozzle squirting out a bit of plastic, you show that to a kid, and usually they're straight in, it's getting them early enough so that they can actually change their course towards engineering or manufacturing or whatever. But it's definitely something that, like lightsabers, is an attention grabber, right? That's
Right, right.
why is it rare for a battery material plant to have multiple chemistries?
So there's the potential for contamination between one family and the other family. So LFP, lithium iron phosphate, contains iron, and you definitely don't want iron in the metal oxide NMC products because it'll overheat the battery. So you try and avoid product contamination between adjacent production lines.
And is there something specific about the Unimelt and the way that that process runs end to end that makes it easier, or is it just through the design of the facility that we're able to?
We're going to lay the plant out in separate production bays. There'll be a bay dedicated for LFP, and there'll be 2 bays dedicated for metal oxides. And so we're going to make sure that there are air locks and air curtains so that we clean people as they walk from one production bay to the other production bay. And so it's the concern around product contamination that drives us keeping these separate.
Okay, good stuff. Okay, well, thank you both very much. An exciting project for sure, and a lot of work already done, but I'm guessing a lot more work to do from here on in. So thank you for taking the time out to talk to us today. Much appreciated, and good luck with the rest of the PlusCAM project.
Thank you, Jim. Thanks,
cheers, guys.
Thanks.
Thank you to Rob and Amy for taking us through the PlusCAM plant and its impacts not only on the battery material production, but on Jackson, Tennessee and the surrounding area. That brings this mini-series to an end, so thank you again to all our guests, to the team at 6K for being so generous with their time, and to the rest of the team here behind the scenes pulling it all together. You can catch up with all 3 episodes of Critical Material Production with Plasma now on the MANSUS 20-Minute Talk podcast feed and on our YouTube channel. This has been a production of MANSUS and 6K. Please like and leave your comments on whichever platform you've joined us on.